A 9-year-old is dead tonight in what health officials are calling the country's first dengue-related death. The latest on the outbreak off the top. Plus, the Court of Appeal rules an Atlanta's waitress was unfairly dismissed, agreeing that executives did not carry out a reasonable investigation. And a view of diplomatic relations as Botswana's president kicks off a state visit to the Bahamas. Then, in Our News at 7:30. Bizarre deaths now under investigation as a father and his 1-year-old son are killed early this morning. Apartment complex on Family Street, the scene. Our News live at 7 starts right now. Welcome to Our News live at 7. Thanks for joining us tonight. I'm Candido Knowles. The country's first dengue-related death has been recorded, with health officials reporting the victim is a 9-year-old child. Berthany McDermott is following this. He tells us the news comes as officials are working to prevent another major outbreak.
Unfortunately, we have had one fatality thus far. That would have been in a child that was 9 years old.
That's Chief Medical Officer Dr. Pearl McMillan, who gave the update at a dengue fever press conference. Dr. McMillan was unable to give much detail into the death, but did say he presented to a healthcare facility with a viral type illness. She said the youngster didn't complete care.
They would have sought care and they did not complete. I guess it could have been that they did not come back to the facility, or they didn't take the meds or whatever.
There are now 88 cases of dengue fever in the Bahamas across 4 islands: New Providence, Exuma, the Berry Islands, and Grand Bahama. Health Minister Dr. Michael Darville says the cases have a history of travel to New Providence. Meanwhile, health officials say we're now dealing with an outbreak, adding they're looking to prevent a major outbreak.
If you have one imported case, which we may have some years, that is definitely not necessarily considered an outbreak. But as we continue to have more cases, we are in that outbreak space.
This is the second time the Bahamas has seen a cluster of cases of dengue fever. Back in 2011, the Bahamas saw an outbreak of serotype 1 and 2. This time, officials have confirmation of serotype 3, which Darville says is concerning. Even more alarming is news from the Chief Medical Officer that everyone is at high risk. Classic signs are fever, aches, pains, rash, and headaches. However, Dr. McMillan says up to 80% of these infected won't show symptoms. Officials from the Department of Environmental Health says fogging is focused on areas where there are confirmed cases.
According to our protocol, within a 10-day period, we continue a 3-cycle fogging, in other words, every 3 days. And that's based upon the science in terms of how the Aedes aegypti, its habitat, and the way it breeds, its behavior.
Reporting for Our News, I'm Berthany McDermott.
All right, thanks for that, Berthany. And we're learning that the Bahamas is not eligible for dengue vaccines. We'll have more on that coming up in Our News at 7:30. Health officials are addressing that. But now to an attempted armed robbery in broad daylight outside Bank of the Bahamas, Carmichael Road. It ended in gunfire. Police say an armored car pulled up to the bank, and a short time later, a Japanese vehicle pulled up and shots were fired.
These occupants of this vehicle confronted the security officers of the armored car services. An exchange of gunfire happened between both parties. Nobody was injured, fortunately. Shortly after that, the car fled from that area. The police, being up and about, responded to that area very efficiently and was able to give chase of that vehicle into the Pride Estate area. Those occupants exited that vehicle and fled into nearby bushes.
All right, that was Officer in charge of the Criminal Investigations Department, Chief Superintendent Michael Johnson. While the suspects are still at large, Johnson praising the efforts of officers.
That speaks to our saturation patrol, the efficiency of our saturation patrol. If we are not preventing these matters, we respond very effectively and we're able to capture these persons. I'm quite sure at the end of the day we would be able to get these persons in custody. The vehicle was retrieved, like you said, and that is being processed.
The Court of Appeal has upheld an award of $15,480 in damages to a former waitress who was unfairly dismissed. Winfred Toot who worked at Atlanta's casino bar for 32 years, was fired after a guest claimed she refused to serve him a drink. On May 4, 2019, Scott Birch, a guest, asked Toot if the drinks were complimentary. Toot said they were, but that servers worked for tips. Birch ordered a rum and coke, and when Toot brought it to him, he told her he didn't have any change. That's when Toot offered to get change for him, and he told her to take the drink away. After this exchange, Birch reported Toot to a supervisor. Now, Toot was fired for gross misconduct 2 days later. The appellate court agreeing, however, with the lower court's decision that the hotel didn't carry out a reasonable investigation before Toot was let go. And amid what some say are attempts to stifle private media at government events, the Office of the Prime Minister now cancelling the weekly cabinet meetings. It comes as private media houses were denied from sending cameramen to the swearing-in and retirement ceremonies at Government House and the upcoming opening of Parliament. Berthany McDermott spoke to OPM Director of Communications, who sought to squash those concerns.
Tuesday mornings are traditionally when journalists get the opportunity to put pressing questions to policymakers. A day ahead of this week's briefing, media houses were informed those briefings were cancelled. Communications Director Latrey Ramming says the plan is to combine the weekly press briefing and cabinet briefings.
If we combine this, we can make it much more, improve the structure of it, improve persons who we make available to the press, including senior government officials, then we could better serve the Bahamian people.
Ahead of the New Day government's ascension to office, members of the media gathered outside the old cabinet building downtown to conduct interviews. Shortly after the Davis administration took office, reporters were required to submit names and questions in order to interview cabinet ministers. It's a story I've covered before, as we showed up and were denied access to the building. These cones restricted access to the office of the Prime Minister, hampering media's attempts to interview government ministers. Unable to approach ministers or even their aides, this was the result. Cabinet briefings in recent weeks have been dismal, as many cabinet ministers deny media requests and in some instances are ignored. But Ramming gave this assurance.
Make the opportunity be available for us to get the answers from these ministers.
Yes, definitely.
But this latest announcement comes amid what seems to be media censorship, starting from the retirement and swearing-in ceremony of former Governor General C.A. Smith and Governor General Cynthia Mother Pratt. Private broadcast media houses were informed that only BIS and ZNS government-run stations will be allowed to have videographers and live streams. While Ramming says that falls under the remit of the Governor General's office, the same stipulations are being handed down for the opening of Parliament in the next few weeks, to which Ramming says he wasn't aware of.
You put a political appointee to run ZNS, and you say to all the private media houses, no, you're not allowed, you're not welcome. There's some real animal farm stuff going on in this country right now.
But Ramming is saying otherwise.
Nothing prohibits members of the press to speaking to ministers in the public. Nothing prohibits members of the press from speaking to members of Parliament, coming inside the Parliament.
Reporting for Our News, I'm Berthany McDermott.
All right, we've got much more to get to tonight, but for now, it's time for your first look at temperatures. Meteorologist Greg Thompson is standing by live in the Weather Center. Greg, I've been following Hurricane Lee, and I'm sure people are seeing that it's seemingly moving on a track to Canada now.
Yeah, it's basically turning more towards the north. That high pressure system in the Atlantic, that's...
Look at God. I mean, obviously not good news for our friends in Canada, but for us.
It's some good news for us.
For sure.
It's still starting to feel some of the effects of those swells. I saw some webcams earlier down in the Turks and Caicos Islands. They're starting to see some swells and some rip currents. So that's going to be spreading northward as Lee continues to track towards the north, east of us and away from us. But it's been a beautiful day around the islands. Again, high pressure is in charge. 85 degrees outside our studios right now with a few clouds. Your winds out of the northeast at 12 miles per hour, and your feels-like temperature, it's still a little warm, 94 degrees. Temperatures around the islands right now, it's 83, cool in Freeport, 85 in Marsh Harbour, Abaco, as well as in Great Harbour Key and in Nicholstown, Andros. Alistown, Bimini, 86, 84 in Governor's Harbour. Central Bahamas, 86 in Kemps Bay. Georgetown, Arthurstown, Cat Island, and Deadman's Key, all 85s, 82 in Cubantown, San Salvador, and Southeast Bahamas, 85s and 86s there once again. With our neighbors to the southeast, Turks and Caicos Islands, you guys are currently 87 at this hour. Talking about Lee, it's basically a Category 3. The cloud mass actually has expanded. It's getting a bit broader, and the winds are starting to pick up across the southeast Bahamas, 15 to 20 knots. So we're still asking you boaters to remain in port. But Lee is more or less turned more towards the north-northwest, and will continue that track through tomorrow, and then quickly turn towards the north, and it's going to continue to parallel the Bahamas, heading for Bermuda. So those guys up there will continue to watch this one very closely. But it's still a Category 3, expected to weaken as it continues to move towards the north, and by the time it gets north of Bermuda, should weaken to a Category 1 before it makes landfall. So Lee is going to continue to provide us with some swells, and we can continue to watch those effects across the islands over the next couple of days. That's your first look at weather. Stick with us. Look at your extended forecast is still to come.
We are just getting started in our news, but when we come back, expanding diplomatic relations with an official welcome for the president of Botswana. The prime minister greets the delegation as the Bahamas positions itself on the world stage. Plus, the Eminent Persons Group disappointed in talks over the crisis in Haiti. And later, the ultimatum given to education officials by the teachers' union chief over issues with Cuban educators. When our news returns.
In what we do at Best Brew, it really doesn't end when the customer purchases our product. We offer specialty coffee, tea, spices, and brewing equipment. We do a lot of our orders via website. We actually have the mobile service and the phone service and the internet. So having business in a box really kind of brought everything together for us and helps us to be able to provide the customer services that we pride ourselves on.
From inside what was once a lagoon.
So imagine that it is 80,000 years ago.
Nice.
And what it would have been like.
To kayaking.
Okay. Shallow. Don't worry about me. I'm turning around.
To learning about those things that scare us.
Okay. You're fine. You're fine. You're fine. Just those squeeze there, right there.
Come join us on the record for a lesson in conservation and exploration inside the Bahamas National Trust Parks.
Embrace technology and the digital transformation for better business results. For small business owners, it's essential to understand how technology can affect operational efficiencies. Modern communication relies on technology, and your customer service depends on communication. With proper tools like our fixed and mobile services, we help you stay connected. For solutions that work, ask the experts. Call Cable Bahamas Business Solutions.
All right, take a look at this video. It's from the official welcome for the President of the Republic of Botswana, who landed in New Providence shortly before 3 o'clock this afternoon. Prime Minister Philip Davis greeting the President and his delegation, including his wife. The official state visit, scheduled until Friday, underlines the expanding diplomatic ties between the Bahamas and African nations as the country repositions itself on the global stage. Both countries expected to explore the potential for cooperation in tourism and the environment, education, agriculture, health, and financial services. Tomorrow, Prime Minister Davis and the President will meet for official talks, laying the foundation for prospective collaborations. The visit, including a courtesy call on Governor General Her Excellency Cynthia Pratt, as well as a state reception in honor of the President. For more on the official visit, and certainly we will have more on this, be sure and stay tuned to ournews.bs. And the Caribbean Community Eminent Persons Group 5-day visit to Haiti has ended in disappointment. The group issuing a statement saying they were not pleased with the tone of the discussions with stakeholders in the French-speaking CARICOM country. The EPG insisting those talks have hardened and the positions of some stakeholders have regressed significantly. The group is led by former Prime Minister of St. Lucia, Dr. Kenny Anthony, and includes former Prime Minister Perry Christie, as well as former Jamaican Prime Minister Bruce Golding. The trio visited Haiti on September 4th as a part of their continued push to bring stability to that island. Now, the statement also pointed out the alarming deterioration of security in Port-au-Prince in August and the deepening of the humanitarian crisis there. But there was some good news. The group said an agreement was eventually reached on the arrangements for intensive mediation meetings to start on September 12th. They added they remain hopeful that with determination and goodwill, a solution can be found to restore Haiti on a path of constitutionalism and democracy. All right, the Bahamas Union of Teachers President Belinda Wilson says she's giving the Ministry of Education until tomorrow to respond following the BUT's call for an investigation into recently hired Cuban teachers who are unable to speak English, creating a language barrier. You may recall that education officials shot down the BUT's claims in a statement saying teachers were recruited as a result of a scrutinizing process, that is, involving seasoned public servants from several ministries and agencies. However, Wilson says this isn't the first time that this has happened.
What happens is it negatively impacts our students and their learning process. And if you would recall, several years back, there were some Cuban teachers who had to be sent back to Cuba because of the same issue. They could not speak English, so the children could not understand them, the teachers could not understand them, and they could not understand the Bahamian teachers or students.
The 46 Cuban teachers were placed in schools throughout the country to address staffing shortages. However, last week, former Education Minister Jeff Lloyd revealed that one of the issues is that the Bahamas went to Cuba too late to recruit. But Wilson says she's awaiting the response on the way forward.
If they are here to complement our educational system, then definitely English, the speaking of English, must be the first basic tenet of their employment. So I await until Wednesday for the Ministry of Education to respond to me on the investigation that they have asked them to conduct.
When our news comes back from the break, we turn our spotlight to stories making headlines across the world as the United States House of Representatives to investigate President Biden's alleged corruption. Plus, got Sudafed in your medicine cabinet? We'll hear why FDA advisors are saying the leading decongestant is ineffective at relieving a stuffy nose. And Hurricane Lee swirls through open waters on a projected path to Canada. The details when our news returns.
In what we do at Best Brew, it really doesn't end when the customer purchases our product. We offer specialty coffee, tea, spices, and brewing equipment. We do a lot of our orders via website. We actually have the mobile service and the phone service and the internet. So having business in a box really kind of brought everything together for us and helps us to be able to provide the customer services that we pride ourselves on.
Don't spend hours sending individual messages to your customers. Use SMS messaging instead. With Cable Bahamas Business Solutions SMS messaging, you can send personalized messages to hundreds or even thousands of recipients instantly. It's quick, effortless, and cost-effective. Plus, it ensures that your messages are delivered directly to your customers' cellular phones, guaranteeing higher engagement. Save time and boost your outreach with SMS bulk messaging. Call Cable Bahamas Business Solutions at 601-8911 in Nassau or 602-8811 in the Family Islands.
This is our news. Welcome back. We turn our attention now to stories making headlines across the world. The U.S. House of Representatives will open a formal impeachment inquiry into President Joe Biden. House Speaker Kevin McCarthy said the inquiry would focus on allegations of abuse of power, obstruction, and corruption by Mr. Biden. Republicans have been investigating the president since they took control of the House in January. The hearings have found no concrete evidence of misconduct by the president.
This logical next step will give our committees the full power to gather all the facts and answers for the American public. That's exactly what we want to know, the answers. I believe the President would want to answer these questions and allegations as well.
Meanwhile, the leading decongestant used by millions of Americans looking for relief from a stuffy nose is likely no better than a dummy pill, according to advisors to the Food and Drug Administration. The group unanimously on Tuesday voted against the effectiveness of the ingredient found in popular versions of Sudafed, Allegra, Dayquil, and other medications stocked on store shelves, that is. Now, phenylephrine became the main drug in over-the-counter decongestants when medicines with an older ingredient were moved behind pharmacy counters. If the FDA follows through on recommendations, Johnson & Johnson, Bayer, and other drug makers could be forced to pull oral medications containing the ingredient. Now, a major analysis of National Health Services staff in the United Kingdom has found female surgeons are being sexually harassed, assaulted, and in some cases raped by colleagues. BBC News has spoken to women who were sexually assaulted in the operating theatre while surgery took place. The Royal College of Surgeons said the findings were truly shocking. The study's authors say there currently exists a pattern of female trainees being abused by senior male surgeons in NHS hospitals. Apple taking the wraps off newer variants of some of its best-selling devices today. The announcement of the iPhone 15 line and upgraded smart watches at the company's annual event comes against the backdrop, though, of flagging discretionary spending and expanded curbs on its flagship smartphones in China. Apple also switched to the USB-C charging standard from the current Lightning port in accordance with the European law on its latest iPhones and AirPods, and also announced environment-friendly changes to some of the devices. The entire new range will be available from September 22nd as Apple hopes the items make it to the top of holiday wish lists. And the area planted with cocoa bushes in Colombia reached a record high last year. An annual United Nations Office on Drugs and Crime report says potential cocoa production has risen by 24% since 2021. Cocoa leaves are the key ingredient in cocaine, and Colombia has long been the top producer of the illegal drug. The area planted with cocoa bushes rose by 13%, and the biggest increase was recorded in Colombia's border areas. And now to the region, where Caribbean nationals won't require an electronic travel authorization, or ETA, to visit the United Kingdom. The official Twitter channel of some British diplomatic missions in the Caribbean posted the announcement Monday, stating ETA requirements for nationals of Caribbean countries and most of the world will begin in 2024 on dates that are to be announced. It will broadly be for visitors who do not need a visa for short stays to the UK or who do not already have UK immigration status prior to traveling. And finally, Hurricane Lee whirled north of Puerto Rico on Tuesday as a Category 3 storm, with forecasters noting it would remain in open waters through this week while on a path to Atlantic Canada. The storm was located about 555 miles south of Bermuda and has winds of up to 115 miles per hour and was moving west-northwest at 6 miles per hour. Tropical storm watch was issued for Bermuda, with Lee forecast to pass just west of the island late Thursday. The National Hurricane Center said as much. Now, according to AccuWeather, by Sunday, Lee was forecast to weaken into a tropical storm and likely make landfall in Canada. Well, back here at home, Bahamas Air, recognized as a regional leader in the airline industry, winning the leading airline in the Caribbean for the 4th consecutive year. The World Travel Awards ceremony held in St. Lucia last month brought together industry professionals and travel enthusiasts from around the world to celebrate excellence in travel and tourism. The World Travel Awards are renowned for honoring outstanding achievements in various sectors of the travel and tourism industry. Deputy Managing Director Prince Storr was accompanied by Board Director Cordell Knowles to accept the award. Still to come in our news today in history, find out interesting facts about the day that was September 12th. Then in our news at 7:30, a father and his 1-year-old son dead in a bizarre incident, now under investigation. And we are learning the Bahamas not eligible for dengue vaccines. This as a 9-year-old becomes the country's first dengue-related death. When Our News returns. Parliament is prorogued, ending the first legislative session of the Davis administration. It's been 2 years since the PLP-1 elections, ushering in a new government. On October 4th, a brand new session of Parliament begins with a new Governor General, a new speech from the throne, and with it a blueprint for a new legislative agenda. Stay with Our News Nightly and follow ournews.bs for analysis and insight, and most of all, what's important to you.
From inside what was once a lagoon.
So imagine that it is 80,000 years ago.
Nice.
And what it would have been like.
To kayaking.
Okay. Shallow. Don't worry about me. I'm turning around.
To learning about those things that scare us.
Okay. You're fine. You're fine. You're fine. Just those trees there, right there.
Come join us on the record for a lesson in conservation and exploration inside the Bahamas National Trust Parks.
Embrace technology and the digital transformation for better business results. For small business owners, it's essential to understand how technology can affect operational efficiencies. Modern communication relies on technology, and your customer service depends on communication. With proper tools like our fixed and mobile services, we help you stay connected. For solutions that work, ask the experts. Call Cable Bahamas Business Solutions.
Welcome back to Our News. It's time now to turn our spotlight on events that shaped the day that was September 12th. Take a look. On this day in Bahamian history in 1729, the first elections were held for seats in the House of Assembly. The Historical Society notes elections took place at the home of Samuel Lawford and later hosted the first meeting of the General Assembly. Elections for the entire colony took place from the 12th to the 18th. The city of Nassau was the first district to vote for representatives. Then in 1971, Chandra Stirrup was born in Nassau. Stirrup is a retired Bahamian athlete who specialized in the 100, 200, and 400 meter relay. At the 2000 Summer Olympics in Sydney, Australia, she won a gold medal in the women's 400 meter relay along with Savathita Fines, Pauline Davis-Thompson, Debbie Ferguson, and Eldis Clark-Lewis. Their feat earned them the nickname the Golden Girls. Then September 12, 1980, Florida Commuter Airlines Flight 65 from Palm Beach International Airport crashed near West End, Grand Bahama. All 30 passengers and 4 crew members perished. Only 15 bodies were recovered. Then in 1983, then Prime Minister Lyndon Pindling appeared on NBC Today to answer allegations made in a report by NBC reporter Brian Ross that Bahamian government officials were involved in drug trafficking on Norman's Cay. And finally, on this day in 1995, Stephen Gardner was born in Murphytown, Abaco. Gardner is a multi-medal winning track and field athlete specializing in the 200 and 400 meters. He is the 2020 Olympic and 2019 World Champion in the 400 meter and also won the silver medal at the 2017 World Championships. While many are calling for more female representation in Parliament, there are real deterrents for Bahamian women interested in entering the arena. That's coming from former Attorney General Dame Janet Bostwick, who says there are things we can address to make it more accessible.
Dame Janet Bostwick has a wealth of experience on the matter of women in Bahamian politics, having been the first woman to be elected as a member of Parliament, the first female Attorney General, and the first female acting Prime Minister. Now, she says, women can't turn a blind eye to politics.
Everything is in that Parliament, and that's where you need to be. As a woman, you need to be there. And I have found that unless you are there, so many issues which impact you as a woman personally will never come to the floor.
But she says there are a number of roadblocks that deter women from entering the field, including the pressure to continue running the home on top of your professional responsibilities. She also says our culture holds many women back from being heard.
Culturally, we have been taught that you to be like children, seen and not heard. It is difficult for women to find sponsors. Politics is a difficult and very expensive thing. There are a number of issues, but it is more than possible to deal with them all.
Bostwick points to other countries like Sweden, which have made efforts to encourage more male participation in home matters and increase female presence in governance. And she says,
and life in those countries appear to be better.
Reporting for Our News, I'm Marlena Leonard.
All right, thanks a lot for that, Marlena. And to watch that story again and for all of today's top stories, you can visit ournews.bs. It's going to do it for us in News at 7. Joining us now, Atalia Hall. She's got the latest headlines. Atalia?
Yes, Ken, while a father and his 1-year-old son dead in a bizarre incident now under investigation. And we're learning the Bahamas is not eligible for dengue vaccines. Here are your latest headlines. An unusual incident first tonight on Our News Live at 7:30. A man and his 1-year-old son is dead tonight. Police and a nearby neighbor are speaking out. Also, a 9-year-old is confirmed dead tonight after a battle with dengue fever. Hear what health officials are saying about vaccines. Also, a 2-year reflection from the Minister of Public Service. Our Sasha Lightborn has the exclusive story. And later, perseverance, a Grand Bahama couple beating the odds as they now focus on a new business. We'll tell you all about it when Our News Live at 7:30 returns.
Just when Leo was about to buy this useless pair of Hands underwear, he remembered.
In what we do at Best Brew, it really doesn't end when the customer purchases our product. We offer specialty coffee, tea, spices, and brewing equipment. We do a lot of our orders via website. We actually have the mobile service and the phone service and the internet. So having business in a box really kind of brought everything together for us and helps us to be able to provide the customer services that we pride ourselves on.
Don't spend hours sending individual messages to your customers. Use SMS messaging instead. With Cable Bahamas Business Solutions SMS messaging, you can send personalized messages to hundreds or even thousands of recipients instantly. It's quick, effortless, and cost-effective. Plus, it ensures that your messages are delivered directly to your customers' cellular phones, guaranteeing higher engagement. Save time and boost your outreach with SMS bulk messaging. Call Cable Bahamas Business Solutions at 601-8911 in Nassau or 602-8811 in the Family Islands.
Welcome to Our News and thank you for joining us. I'm Atalia Hall. A man and his son are dead tonight in an unusual incident on Family Street, sparking public outrage. We have the details coming up, but first, Health and Wellness Minister Dr. Michael Darville shooting down talks of a dengue vaccine for the Bahamas, saying there's no program in the region if the country isn't in an endemic area. That means the disease isn't regularly occurring in the area. It comes as officials confirm the death of a 9-year-old boy from dengue fever.
We reached out to the Pan American Health Organization to give us advice on the possibility of vaccines. And based on what is being discussed, we believe not being in an endemic area sought to exclude the Bahamas from a national vaccination program for dengue.
His comments come after former Health Minister Dr. Dwayne Sands called on government to bring in dengue vaccines for people who want it. Dr. Felicia Balfour Greenslade, who leads the ministry's National Communicable Disease Surveillance Unit, doubled down on dengue fever not being endemic to the Bahamas.
The best example I can think of for the Bahamas, we have influenza. We have influenza cases throughout the year. But there'll be times when we would have more than the usual than we would expect, and we don't say we have an influenza outbreak going on consistently. But when we see that increase in number, that represents an outbreak of an endemic illness in the country. Dengue is different.
And now to this unfortunate story, the strange incident unfolding this morning resulting in the death of a man and his 1-year-old son. Our Joshua Williams has been following the story and has these details.
Police say the deadly incident happening in the wee hours of Tuesday morning just off Soldier Road. Police responding to a call at an apartment complex on Family Street around 12:30 this morning. The initial report indicated 2 men were fighting. After officers arrived, they attempted to subdue one of the men. Police say that's when things took a turn from bad to worse.
As they was about to confront him, he barricaded himself into a bedroom. As they were about to breach that bedroom, they heard glass being broken on the outside. When they went on the outside of the apartment building, they met this male jumping through a window. The officers attempted to subdue him. They had to chase him a short distance. He jumped a fence and went into a garbage bin. They had to take him out of that garbage bin, and a struggle ensued between the officers and this male.
After successfully arresting the man, officers made a shocking discovery when they searched the man's home.
When they went inside that bedroom, they met the body of a male child. He was lying on his back on a mattress. He appeared to be unresponsive.
And the story gets even more bizarre. The boy's father, who was detained by officers, became unresponsive. EMS responded and pronounced him dead at the scene. Police say the child has been identified as 22-month-old Anwar Miller by his mother. We spoke to a neighbor who expressed shock and disappointment that something like this could happen.
An innocent child? That's what had me stunned. I couldn't even go inside last night because I couldn't believe it.
With a father and son dead, many are questioning the dead man's mental and physical state and what led to their peculiar deaths. Johnson says we'll have to wait and see. Reporting for Our News, I'm Joshua Williams.
All right, thanks for that report, Josh. Well, 4 illegal firearms were taken off the streets of New Providence overnight, thanks to a joint effort with Operation Ceasefire, Secure City, the K-9 unit, and the Royal Bahamas Defense Force. Police also say a large stash of marijuana was confiscated. It ended in the arrest of 2 men ages 27 and 28 years old. Police say the arrest came around 3 p.m. after officers who were acting on a tip executed a search warrant on the suspect's residence on Mildred Avenue and Carmichael Road. That's where the drugs and guns were found. Well, a former attorney who stole $1.8 million from his clients has breached an agreement to repay the cash. Now, last September, Ralph Jan Ward took a plea deal that required him to serve 18 months in prison. He was allowed to remain free on $100,000 bail so that he could make arrangements to repay the money within 9 months. When the 9-month period expired, Ward requested and was granted another 3 months to pay the money. Although not paying a dime towards his bill, Ward wants more time to come up with the money. Well, the acting Deputy Director of Public Prosecutions, Yuko Bonaby, said that Ward was making a mockery of the system and was being treated differently than other criminals. He asked Justice Cheryl Grant Thompson to send Ward to prison since he had made no efforts to repay the money. Now the matter has been adjourned to September 27. One of the recent cabinet changes in the Davis administration included the elevation of Pia Glover-Roll from a state minister to a substantive minister for public service. Well, our Sasha Lightborn sat down with her just days before the announcement to reflect on her 2 years in office.
We're in momentum now, and we're understanding our goals, where we are in terms of achieving them, and understanding basically how to make it all work as a well-oiled machine. So I would say year 2 is easier.
Newly minted Minister for Labor and the Public Service, Pia Glover-Roll, was one of the Progressive Liberal Party's first-time politicians. And now, after 2 years, she admits it's gotten easier.
So I'm enjoying the service. It's a good balance for me with the ministry and my constituency and family. And of course, I think I do a pretty good job of finding time for myself. But that is a skill that, is important in any role of leadership, political or otherwise.
2 years in has taught her to do some things differently.
So I find that it's important to be in a position to always be able to pivot. The end result is always foremost. How we're getting there is always critical, and ensuring that along the way you're not so rigid, but that you're able to place yourself in a position where you can pivot, where you can tweak where it's necessary, and as I say, you keep it moving.
She's admittedly proud of her success and highs in the public service.
We have signed 22 industrial agreements in 22 months, basically. That's a great thing. But to me, that was low-hanging fruit. It was agreements that have been hanging in the balance that we just needed to get it done. We've processed thousands of reclassifications, promotions, confirmations, and personnel matters that were just hanging in the balance.
But it's not all been a bed of roses. She's very candid about the stifled progress.
It is the bureaucracy that we're going to work to improve.
As a sitting minister and member of parliament, it can sometimes be a difficult balancing act. The Golden Gates MP says she's also been hard at it for the people she represents.
As I campaigned, I did a checklist of what I wanted, well, not what I wanted, what the residents wanted to see for their constituency. And it's a great feeling to check off what has been done.
Clover Rule was among 8 cabinet ministers affected by the recent shuffle. Reporting for Our News, I'm Sasha Lightbourne.
All right, nice report, Sasha. Thank you. Another hot day for us here in the capital with 1 or 2 brief showers, but many are still tracking Hurricane Lee that's still moving through the Atlantic. Meteorologist Greg Thompson is in the Weather Center live with a first check on weather. Greg?
Yeah, Lee is still to the east of us, Category 3 storm, and it's still tracking towards the north-northwest. It's expected to make a turn fully towards the north in another day, and it's going to stay well to the east of us. But another beautiful day around the islands. High pressure staying in charge. 85 degrees right now outside our studios. Few clouds. Northeast winds, 12 miles per hour. Those winds are picking up due to tightening pressure gradient across the area. Feels like temperature is at 94. Lee is sitting out there. This is Nagua, Turks and Caicos Islands, Ackland, Crooked Island. It's well to the east of us. The storm has expanded in size. The winds not increased much, but it's still a very powerful storm. It will stay to the east of us, continuing to track towards the north and away from us. But the swells are starting to affect the southeast Bahamas. Saw that earlier. The track, still at Category 3, will continue that through tomorrow, and then by Thursday expected to weaken as it approaches Bermuda, and then as it continues moving northwards, it will still further weaken before it reaches the Canadian Maritimes. That's a quick check on Lee and temperatures around the islands. Stick with us. Look at your tropics still to come.
Still to come on Our News, airlines stepping up to the plate to meet the high demand of visitors traveling to the country. A NAT executive explains. Also, hear the story of a resilient couple whose family business is thriving despite challenges when Our News returns.
Doctors Hospital is reimagined primary care. We have invested to improve our health system, ensuring that accessible, affordable, world-class clinical care is closer to you. Your relationship with a primary care provider shapes the foundation of your overall health. Our new, modern primary care facilities are where critical diagnosis and true personalized treatment begin. With locations across New Providence, Grand Bahama, and Exuma, we invite you to experience the Doctors Hospital difference. Book your next appointment at clinics.doctorshos.com.
Collect Verse Access is as easy as grab a collect, scan a collect. Open your camera app, focus on the QR code, and click the link that appears. You own your Collect Verse experience. Take selfies, join the cultural referendum, and share with your friends. See content from local chefs, Olympic athletes, and cultural icons. Collect is proud to be 50. Grab a collect, scan a collect. Get in the Collect Verse today.
Introducing the Focal Smart Pass app that helps you to fuel up faster. Here's how it works. Download the app on the App Store or get it on Google Play and create your profile with payment details. Visit your nearest Shell station, open the app, scan the pump's QR code, select your payment amount, and begin fueling. Say goodbye to cash and cards because the Focal Smart Pass offers secure and convenient payment options right at your fingertips. Download Focal Smart Pass now and fuel up faster today.
In what we do at Best Brew, it really doesn't end when the customer purchases our product. We offer specialty coffee, tea, spices, and brewing equipment. We do a lot of our orders via website. We actually have the mobile service and the phone service and the internet. So having business in a box really kind of brought everything together for us and helps us to be able to provide the customer services that we pride ourselves on.
Don't spend hours sending individual messages to your customers. Use SMS messaging instead. With Cable Bahamas Business Solutions SMS messaging, you can send personalized messages to hundreds or even thousands of recipients instantly. It's quick, effortless, and cost-effective. Plus, it ensures that your messages are delivered directly to your customers' cellular phones, guaranteeing higher engagement. Save time and boost your outreach with SMS bulk messaging. Call Cable Bahamas Business Solutions at 601-8911 in Nassau or 602-8811 in the Family Islands.
There remains a strong demand to travel to the Bahamas. That statement coming from President of the Nassau Airport Development Company, Bernice Joaquin, as she says the airport is seeing big numbers this summer. Joaquin says following the COVID-19 pandemic, the amount of travelers passing through the Lynden Pinling International Airport has been sustained, adding that the airlines recognize the demand and are responding.
They're putting on additional capacity, upgauging aircraft in existing markets, but also adding new gateways, which is always helpful to us because the degree to which we are able to broaden the base of customers that we attract, it really is a good thing for the destination. So we're not overly reliant on any particular market in the event something were to happen in that particular market. So to have new gateways opening up like Seattle, Los Angeles is really exciting. We also have Delta coming out of Miami for the first time ever, which is really quite interesting.
While she says travel statistics for summer 2023 are not yet available, they are actively engaged in a capacity planning exercise.
We recognize from 2019 when we had that historic year before the pandemic that we needed to be in a position to accommodate additional growth. So some of the plans that we had put in place then that we had to put on hold, we are reactivating. And we're taking a more critical look at it now in view of the fact that we're coming from more gateways, larger aircraft and all of that and what that means. So that planning exercise is actively underway. And so we will be developing what we call our growth plan over the course of the next few months.
All right, and now to a story about a couple who was a part of the tourism industry, but after Hurricane Dorian and the COVID-19 pandemic, their business started to decline. The couple is now invested in a new business that they say is seeing a big profit.
To be honest, some days I was afraid that I was going to die. I would have heart palpitations. My gut would just be going crazy. I would be feeling a bit faintish, a bit lightheaded, and nobody knew what was happening.
Andre and Erica Culmer are the owners of Refocus Health CMOS in Grand Bahama. That's Andre describing what life was like for him after being exposed to mold. But he says it was their CMOS gel that assisted with his gut health.
And I went to different health professionals, and they were prescribing certain things over and over, but I noticed that the underlying cause wasn't being addressed. And so the CMOS, turning it into a CMOS gel, is what really helped to get my microbiome back in check in my gut, and it also really just helped me to be more regular. I got rid of reflux, I got rid of the constipation that I was experiencing, bloating, indigestion.
He says initially they were skeptical about the product, but after looking at high-quality CMOS, he saw some of the health benefits, which then became a business.
Our business model is literally the exact same thing as Amazon. So you go online, you purchase or you place your order, and then we deliver it directly to your location, to your doorstep. And I've noticed that many persons, they're happy about it. The customers are like, wow, I've never seen this before. This is so cool.
Erica Culmer says the business requires lots of hard work and had this bit of advice for other business owners.
Don't give up. Don't give up. It's hard work and dedication and a lot of research that is going to help you to keep on pushing forward and moving.
It's now time for tonight's Financial Market Minute, brought to you by RF, your local investment bank. This has been your Financial Market Minute. To explore the best performing mutual funds in the Bahamas, visit our website at www.rfgroup.com.
We introduce you to Bahamian Division I football player, and Anthony Strawn records a strong performance in the Diamond League. Don't go anywhere, our sports is coming up next.
And a few light showers around the capital on this Tuesday. Wondering what else we can expect for the work week? Well, Greg is back with more when Our News continues.
Parliament is prorogued, ending the first legislative session of the Davis administration. It's been 2 years since the PLP won elections, ushering in a new government. On October 4th, a brand new session of Parliament begins with a new Governor General, a new speech from the throne, and with it a blueprint for a new legislative agenda. Stay with Our News Nightly and follow ournews.bs for analysis and insight, and most of all, what's important to you.
From inside what was once a lagoon.
So imagine that it is 80,000 years ago.
Nice.
And what it would have been like.
To kayaking.
Okay. Shallow. Don't worry about me. I'm turning around.
To learning about those things that scare us.
Okay. So you're fine. You're fine. You're fine. Just throw the sweets there, right there.
Come join us on the record for a lesson in conservation and exploration inside the Bahamas National Trust Parks.
Embrace technology and the digital transformation for better business results. For small business owners, it's essential to understand how technology can affect operational efficiencies. Modern communication relies on technology, and your customer service depends on communication. With proper tools like our fixed and mobile services, we help you stay connected. For solutions that work, ask the experts. Call Cable Bahamas Business Solutions.
In what we do at Best Brew, it really doesn't end when the customer purchases our product. We offer specialty coffee, tea, spices, and brewing equipment. We do a lot of our orders via website. We actually have the mobile service and the phone service and the internet. So having business in a box really kind of brought everything together for us and helps us to be able to provide the customer services that we pride ourselves.
Today's sports update is sponsored by Michelob Ultra, distributed in the Bahamas by Jimmy's Wines and Spirits.
This is our news. Welcome back. We talked to a Bahamian college football player, and Anthony Strawn posts a strong finish in Belgium. Here's Tej Adderley with a check on sports. Tej?
Thanks, Ataya. Good evening. Welcome to Our Sports. I'm Tej Adderley. It's college football season, my favorite time of the year. Our Sasha Lightburn got the chance to talk to Bahamian wideout turned defensive back making strides for the Charleston Southern Buccaneers.
They have him listed as a 5'11" sophomore from Nassau, Bahamas, playing the wide receiver spot. But Raymond Wells Jr., also known as RJR Josh, plays cornerback for Charleston Southern University. The D1 college football player tells us, though, that his first sport was basketball once he ventured to the United States in 9th grade.
If I want to take this to the next level, which is college, people in my position, I mean, they 6'7", 6'6", playing my position at college and playing my position in the league. If we look at Buddy Hield, we look at DeAndre Ayton, they 6'7", 6'10". So I said I got to try something else because sports is what I do.
Fast forward to 11th grade, and after going to a Miami Dolphins game, the aerospace management major was sold.
A family friend, Javin Shashadi, he played football. They introduced me to football. They took me to my first Miami Dolphins game, and I think I was like, okay, I want to try this out. And from that point on, I've been with football.
And when I asked him whether he sees himself in the NFL someday,
I played Division I college ball. You know, they always say it's 5% or the 2% of high school players that actually go on to play college. So if I made it this far, if I'm good enough, I definitely would want to try.
Now, if his name sounds familiar, Wells Jr. is the son of Apostle Raymond and Olivia Wells of Living Waters Ministries. And you'll find out in another report if, because of who he is, adds pressure to what he does. Reporting for Our Sports, I'm Sasha Lightborn.
Let's look to RJ and Go Bucks. Moving things over to the track, Anthony Strawn is looking to finish her season on a high note, winning some hardware in Brussels. Anthony Strawn put on a show at the Memorial Van Damme in Brussels, Belgium. She came second place in the 200 meters, finishing in a time of 22.31 seconds, less than a second off the lead of her training partner, Sharika Jackson of Jamaica. The finish was 16/100ths of a second off of Strawn's personal best of 22.15 seconds. She'll have one more chance at her partner this weekend at the final stop of the Diamond League, the Prefontaine in Eugene, Oregon. As always, we'll have the results, so be sure to check our social media pages. That'll do it for sports today. I'm Tej Adderley.
Another sunny day around the islands as we approach the middle of the work week, but there may be a few showers in the forecast. Greg is back with your extended check on weather when our news returns.
Parliament is prorogued, ending the first legislative session of the Davis administration. It's been 2 years since the PLP won elections, ushering in a new government. On October 4th, a brand new session of Parliament begins with a new Governor General, a new speech from the throne, and with it a blueprint for a new legislative agenda. Stay with Our News Nightly and follow ournews.bs for analysis and insight, and most of all, what's important to you.
From inside what was once a lagoon.
So imagine that it is 80,000 years ago.
Nice.
And what it would have been like.
To kayaking.
Okay. Shallow. Don't worry about me. I'm turning around.
To learning about those things that scare us.
Okay. You're fine. You're fine. You're fine. Just those trees there, right there.
Come join us on the record for a lesson in conservation and exploration inside the Bahamas National Trust Parks.
Embrace technology and the digital transformation for better business results. For small business owners, it's essential to understand how technology can affect operational efficiencies. Modern communication relies on technology, and your customer service depends on communication. With proper tools like our fixed and mobile services, we help you stay connected. For solutions that work, ask the experts. Call Cable Bahamas Business Solutions.
From inside what was once a lagoon.
So imagine that it is 80,000 years ago.
Nice.
And what it would have been like.
To kayaking.
Okay. Shallow. Don't worry about me. I'm turning around.
To learning about those things that scare us.
Okay. So you're fine. You're fine. You're fine. Just those trees there, right there.
Come join us on the record for a lesson in conservation and exploration inside the Bahamas National Trust Parks.
Embrace technology and the digital transformation for better business results. For small business owners, it's essential to understand how technology can affect operational efficiencies. Modern communication relies on technology, and your customer service depends on communication. With
Welcome back to our news. Partly cloudy skies with warm temperatures on this Tuesday. Wondering how the rest of the week will pan out. While Greg is back in the Weather Center live with your extended forecast. Greg?
Well, it should be a nice week. A high-pressure system will remain in charge of our weather. Of course, Lee is still to the east of us. The only effects that will be giving us is some swells, and they're beginning to affect the easternmost islands right now, especially the southeast Bahamas, Turks and Caicos Islands. Saw some webcam imagery earlier today, and those swells are starting to affect Turks and Caicos in particular. Let's get back to our image. Of course, the remainder of the tropics, we still have Margot. Margot is a hurricane now and still moving towards the north. We're calling that a fish storm. It's going to continue to stay out there. And then we're watching an area in the far eastern Atlantic, the National Hurricane Center giving that a very high chance for formation, and it should be between the next couple of days. Time frame for that, September 15th through the 17th of this week. This week. And of course, we will continue to watch that. This should stay out there in the open Atlantic, but Lee will be the main concern for us over the next couple of days. Boating forecast, we're still asking you boaters to remain in port. Those swells will be spreading northwards across the remainder of the islands. Dangerous rip currents out there, so beach goers, we're asking you to stay out of the waters as well, especially along the Atlantic exposures. North to northeast winds, 15 knots across the northwest and central Bahamas, 3 to 5 foot seas, but they will be up to 8 to 10 feet along the Atlantic exposures in some large northeasterly swells. Your high tide will be at 7:14 tonight. Southeast Bahamas, stronger winds, northwest and north winds, 15 to 20 knots, 4 to 7 foot seas, and those swells will be up to 12 feet along Atlantic exposures. Here's a look now at your national forecast. Your extended forecast, beautiful conditions, some spotty showers in the forecast. Temperatures will be near the 90-degree mark. Of course, no real weather with the exception of the swells affecting us. So make sure you stay safe out there. That's a look at our weather. Back to you, Talia.
All right, thanks so much, Greg, and thank you for joining us for our news tonight. On behalf of the entire team, I'm Natalia Hall. We'll see you tomorrow night. Have a great evening.